Hi, I'm Nigel the Shanghai Psychic. I can tune into your loved ones in the spirit world, but I can also tune into you, tell you about your path and the choices that you need to make and need to know. I'm currently giving 30% discount on all Tell Craig Your Story listeners. Just use the code Tell Craig Your Story for 30% off your first psychic reading with me online at Nigel the Shanghai Psychic.
This is Spread a Little Love by Mark Wengelewski off the album Onward and Upload on Tell Craig Your Story podcast.
Here we go, guys.
Hi guys, Craig here. Welcome to another edition of the podcast, Tell Craig Your Story. Today we'll be speaking to Mark Wengelewski. Now Mark is from Chicago, USA. He is a singer-songwriter and recording artist. Now recently he's brought out his brand new album, Onward and Upload. Now the first track that you heard at the start of the podcast was Spread a Little Love. Now we talked to Mark about his previous bands that he's been in. He recorded his first album with J for Jules, and also working at the famous Traffic Jam bar, where he met some of the biggest celebrities and sports stars in US Major League. We also talk about Major League Baseball and his love for the Chicago White Sox. And then we talk about him moving to Shanghai, China, where he continued his music career. He is currently working at the Pearl Theatre, and he is Bon Scott in the AcDc tribute band. Now, me being a huge AcDc fan, I know that that's one of the most difficult jobs to do, to be able to sing like Bon Scott. He has also done many other tribute shows, and he is also promoting his new album. But before we go, please go to our website. We're at Podbean. Tell Craig Your Story at podbean.com. We also have a link tree there which tells you where Tell Craig Your Story is streaming. We are on all the major streaming services, including Google Podcast, Apple iTunes, Spotify. We also have a YouTube channel there. Make sure you're subscribing to get all the latest updates. We have Wechat for our Chinese listeners and VK for our Russian listeners at Tell Craig Your Story. All right, here we go. This is my chat with Mark on Tell Craig Your Story podcast. Hi Mark, how you doing today?
Hey Craig, I'm doing great, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I don't know why I waved, because we can't see, but
I can see.
You can see.
It's quite friendly, so that's good.
Thanks for your time. It's been a long time coming. I think I may have asked you at the start of the year, maybe March, April, something like that. You've been very, very, very busy with your album.
Yes, sir.
Performing at different places around Shanghai. Most recognised as the Pearl.
Yeah.
I've seen you quite a few times there now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's talk about straight off the bat. Brand new release album, Onwards and Upwards.
Yes, sir. Onward and Upward.
No
plurals.
Okay. So tell us about this, because this has been a long time coming as well.
Yeah, actually, we started recording in 2019.
Right.
In August of 2019. So it was a little bit of an imperative to push and get it out finally, in an August, albeit 3 years later. Having been here in Shanghai for a few years, playing around, I got to know quite a few musicians, and I do a little bit of writing myself, songwriting. And it's like, okay, well, I write mostly with a band in mind. All the arrangements I'm hearing in my head are band arrangements. So I was like, okay, well, I can ask people. I know drummers and I know bass players and all that. So I was like, well, I really like this guy on bass, Michael Hiller, a guy from Tennessee. I played a couple shows with him. Really, really solid bass player. I asked for recommendations on drummers, and they said, Gilbert Kubasami, who used to be here in Shanghai and was a rock solid player playing with Studio 188, and then he was in a Mauritius island band, and he was like the lead singer and songwriter for that, called he's gonna kill me because I can't remember the name of the band. New Killa was the great the band, and solid drummer, amazing singer. And then Nick Bullivin, who was the longtime audio engineer at the famous Cotton Club.
Oh, right.
And so I got these guys together in a room, and we did about 3 weeks worth of rehearsal, and I said, okay, we're going to record bass and drums and a scratch guitar track at a studio. I got a place relatively cheap for 10 hour, a 10-hour block, and we just, okay, let's do this one. Ran a couple takes, got a nice feel. Okay, let's go to the next one. And then years of just layering and overdubbing. And then finding other players like
trumpets and
right. There's a song "What You Gonna Do Now," and I asked a Japanese saxophone player named Maeda to arrange the horns for me, and I played a little bit of a riff on guitar, what I wanted to hear, and then he took it and ran with it. And there's kind of a funny story about that. I wanted to have baritone sax, so it's almost me duetting with the baritone on it. It's kind of cool. And that's Matthew Chen, amazing Chinese saxophone player who played that. And we got to the point where we did the horns. Maeda played trombone and saxophone on the main part. We had a Chinese trumpet player, and then Matthew playing the baritone. Then we got to the point where we said, well, Maeda, I want you to take us out with a really great sax solo. Well, he's a jazz player.
Right.
So he started playing just very kind of, lilting, kind of nice, beautiful, spot on, great jazz solos. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to hear, E Street Band and, rock and roll kind of saxophone, or old school R&B kind of saxophone. So I kept popping into the studio room and say, okay, kind of push it a little more. And he said, okay, I will. And he did another take. I'm like, I think a little more. Can you go a little more?
Yeah.
And we finally got to take 5, and he did the take you hear. And Matthew and myself and the engineer, we all stood up and we started applauding. We're like, wow. That's it. And he's like, no, I can do one more. He did another one, and we're like, no, number 5 was the one. So that's the keeper for the track.
Right. Wow.
And my friend Yuko Kishi is singing on the record, and then a guitar player named Michael Ouyang is playing on the song Catapult Launch, because I wanted something kind of sounding like Adrian Belew with a twangy whammy bar kind of thing. And he was in California at the time. He left Shanghai. So I sent him the tracks, and he kept sending me back takes. And I was like, yeah, I like this one. So we got that in there. And then another friend, Ryan Hickey, who was a piano player, I got him before he left Shanghai to do the piano solo on I'll Do It Again. It's amazing sort of New Orleans funky jazz piano solo.
So I'm seeing a trend as to why it's taken 3 years to get the album out. So.
Yeah, and then just pulling in these different influences and people and
because like we said before, it's a very colourful sort of album. It has a lot of diverse sort of influences you brought in. We're
going to be talking about music through this, and my favorite band's the Beatles. So it's my feeling over the years has been, okay, who are your favorite bands? Well, my top 10 bands are here, and then there's the Beatles.
Right.
I like Crowded House, and I like Squeeze and Cheap Trick and all these other bands. But, there's the Beatles, and then those guys.
Yes.
So, and my favorite album is the White Album. And I've come to and I come to feel that the White Album is almost like the history of pop music. It's got a rock and roll and hard rock and country and blues and a mixture, and so it's like, why should I stick myself to writing in one genre?
Yeah, exactly.
If I can get the feeling of writing in one style, write it, and then find the people who can fit for it.
Yeah. That's great idea. So let's talk a little bit more about that later.
All right, sure.
We're going to be talking, like you said, lots about music.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, anybody that comes to China has a story.
Right.
You've got to be a little bit courageous, to come here by yourself. You don't have any sort of family here.
Right.
It's not like going to the US or coming to Australia.
Right.
Wanted to talk to you. You said that in between the album was COVID.
Oh, yeah.
You were here as well.
Right. Well, that was another...
sorry.
No, I was going to say, that's another reason why it was delayed a while, because...
Yeah.
Okay, are we going to survive?
Right.
Live through this, so...
Shut down.
Right.
So a lot of people from Australia are always interested to hear the people that were actually so close. So tell us about where you were, what you had to shut down, and your family staying safe.
Well, I was here the whole time. I hadn't left Shanghai at all. I remember in January of 2020, it's like, okay, we're getting ready for another Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of slowdown, and I think Chinese New Year that year was early, if I remember.
Yes.
And you start hearing a little noise about, something's happening in Wuhan. Okay. if you've lived in China any period of time, you hear, oh, well, something like Heilongjiang's got a swine flu outbreak, or there's a bird flu in Yunnan. And it's like, okay, well, it stays in Yunnan, I'll stay away from Heilongjiang. I won't go there. And then you started hearing more stories about Wuhan, and it started getting a little bit bigger. Then Chinese New Year happened, and the streets got really quiet, as they usually do here.
Millions of people.
It's the biggest migration of humans on the planet during Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
Millions of people go home to their homes. And so the streets got typically quiet, but then they started to stay quiet. And I said, okay, talking to a couple of friends here, it's like, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, let's see what happens, and started preparing. I was buying bottles of water, concerned about the supply chain. Okay, so all these people, these truck drivers and workers went home for Chinese New Year. That's going to affect goods coming into the big city.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, let me scoop up the water I want to get. Went into the local grocery stores, and of course, the first thing that was gone off the shelves were all the instant noodles.
Yeah,
there wasn't a bowl of instant noodles to be found anywhere. So I was good. I had 7 gallons of water set aside. I bought 5 kg of rice. Had some pasta noodles. I bought a couple of jars of pasta sauce. But I kept checking for fresh vegetables. And we'll be okay with that, or
music. That should be okay.
Yeah. We'll talk loud enough.
Yeah.
And I kept checking the fresh vegetables. And I have a Lianhua close to me, which is a local grocery chain, and I also have a city shop nearby. And I was going in there, and I was like, oh, they don't have any fresh vegetables.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, there's 2 things it could be. It could be either Chinese New Year and it slows down, which it does. Oh, and another thing that had happened during Chinese New Year was a lot of restaurants were starting to close. And a lot of families in Shanghai who stay behind, they don't want to cook at home, so they'll go to a restaurant for their New Year meal. The restaurants were closed, so people were staying home. So I'm like, okay, that's why all the shelves are cleared of vegetables and whatnot. Gave it about a week, and slowly they started to come back, so there was no problem there with that. But things were shutting down completely. Bars and restaurants were closed. I don't think specifically it was a mandate to close everything, but they said, restaurants and bars have to close at 7 o'clock, but not completely closed. They could still do, a lot of them were doing carry out. So it was an incentive for people not to be out. Yeah. And the shopping malls definitely closed, and everything else closed, and they told everyone, mask up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now for you, trying to find a mask, I mean, I left in 4th of February, so I was here for the start of it, and I was actually supposed to go to the US.
Okay.
And they shut it down the day before I was going to leave.
Yeah.
They said if you've been in China in the last 14 days and you're not a US citizen, you can't go. So I changed my flight back to Australia, but before that, trying to get a mask was impossible.
Oh, yeah.
And then trying to go on Taobao, 350, 400 yuan for just one, not a packet. Right.
When people were lining up at the pharmacies, and they were just selling one at a time. I was very lucky. For some reason, I can't remember why. Oh, I know. In 2013, when I was here, I had pneumonia. And I was in the hospital for 7 days. So for the bad pollution days, I had actually gone to one of the big box hardware stores and bought back a half dozen N95 painters, masks and good ones. So I had those. So I was living off of those until I was able to get standard hospital masks.
All right. Well, see, there you go. It pays to buy in bulk. You never know.
Right. Oddly, I was prepared. My friend Yuko Kishi, the singer on the album, she was in Japan at the time, and she returned back here, and she asked me, "Do you want any masks?" And she brought me back, 150 sealed in a box. And I was like, "Wow, thanks." And I'm still working my way through that.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. the last couple of days for me was just like I'd go out on a Friday night. Mm-hmm. I'd be covered. I'd have my hoodie on. I'd have the mask on. Yeah. Still, like you, didn't know what was going on. And I would walk down one of the main streets in Shanghai, and normally it'd be pumping.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely pumping on a Saturday night. Like restaurants, bars,
sure.
Like music.
Nothing.
Dead.
It was
locked up.
7 o'clock at night was the equivalent to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Where it was just, there's nothing. Dead. There's nobody out. All the shops are closed. Thank goodness the local corner Lawson's stayed open throughout the whole... And I was like... Every day I'd go and, buy some soda water, buy some bread or whatever from them and smile, say hi, good to see you. And I could see the light from the Lawson's from my apartment window.
Uh-huh.
One time I looked out the window and it was kind of like, a beacon of hope. Oh, Lawson's is gone. Everything's still good. Opened my curtains, I looked, the light was out.
Bro.
Panicked. Uh-oh. Yeah. Things are getting serious.
Yeah.
Mask up, hoodie, again, get dressed, run down. Oh, we forgot to turn the light on. Okay. Well, let me buy some beer and whatnot. And come back home. But yeah, shut down. There was no corporate teaching for me at all. There were no music gigs. There was nothing going on from about the beginning of February till about the end of March.
Right. And like for you, were you just like off your savings, or just
like off of savings? And
did you do any work during that online?
No,
no,
I didn't have a system like that set up.
So what did you do then in that period? Was it writing music?
One of the good things was in like November of 2019, a friend sold me his projector.
Oh, right.
And so I was like, okay, it was cinema night.
Yeah,
every night.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And also, I'm a big DC Comics fan.
Right.
That was always my go-to for comic books. And I'd heard that Robert Pattinson, the guy who's was in the Twilight movies as the sparkly vampire, is going to be the new Batman. Mm. It's like, okay, well, I want to see what his acting chops are like. So I heard about this movie called The Lighthouse. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Black and white period piece of a late 19th century lighthouse.
Yeah, right.
Really beautiful, cinematography, an amazing movie about two guys locked down and going to the brink of insanity.
There you go.
Exactly what I needed to see, or exactly what I didn't need to see during lockdown. So after that, it was, you know what I'm going to do? I've never seen quite a few of the Studio Ghibli cartoons. Mm. It's like that's the most wholesome, lighthearted stuff I can think of to keep my spirits going. So I was like watching Howl's Moving Castle, watching Kiki's Delivery Service. I don't know if you know those movies at all. No. What was his famous one? Oh, my neighbor Totoro. Mm. They're all he's an amazing Japanese film artist, and so it's like, oh, these are lighthearted and friendly and nice, and great stories, not dark at all. It's like perfect. I watched them on my projector and on my wall in my apartment, and that kind of got me through this. Another thing that helped me though is I also do voiceovers for video games and dub in for some Chinese soap operas.
Right. How did that all come about?
Friend of a friend.
Right.
Networking connections, and they were keeping the studio going. They were able still to do production, but you couldn't really get in and out of the studio. So they were able to do their online work and editing.
Yes.
But to create any new content was difficult. I got called to do a job. The boss of the place says, "Hey, okay, you can't come to the front gate. Meet me at the subway stop. I'll pick you up." He drives over, picks me up. He goes, "Okay, get in the back seat and duck on the floor."
Oh.
And so he drove me into his parking garage. I was hiding on the floor, snuck me into his apartment building.
Right.
I did the voiceovers, got some cash for that. That was good. And then he
come back,
sneaked me out again.
Right.
So
that's good.
Yeah, that was fun. So made it through, and then the teaching gig started up again I want to say like mid-April. And started to go to like this Le Saf, which is a French yeast company that I go and work at, and was doing some work for L'Oreal Cosmetics, and so it's just training for them usually. But going in, everybody had to be socially distant. Everybody had masks on. Yes. I had to scan a QR code to get into their office. Everywhere getting QR code scanned, making sure that we have green codes on our phone to show where you've been in China or out of China. So everywhere you're going, you're showing your green code. I haven't traveled. I'm here. Yeah. I'm safe, and just trying to wait it out.
Now, more recently, the big controversy, especially in Australia, has been the get a vaccine or don't get a vaccine.
Right.
I guess in America as well.
Same, yeah.
So did you get the vaccine here in China?
Yes, as soon as I heard you could get it, I was like immediately.
Me too.
Yeah. I felt a little dragged and tired for about 2 days after the first one. I was like, just not a lot of energy, but also one of the warnings is they tell you to avoid caffeine and things like so maybe no coffee kind of pulled me down a little bit.
Right.
But after the second one, it's like, there's no problem.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think people, if they can get it, they should get it. So, but if they don't want to get it, it's their choice.
Well, like the things that I hear now is that the majority of people who are getting truly sick and not surviving COVID are ones who are unvaccinated. So, get the vaccine, get a little sick maybe, and then...
long term. You got to think long term. Right. And if it's going to help us to break down the lockdowns, I'm all for it then.
Open up travel, open up the world again, and let's get back.
Because we want to travel. It's been almost like a year now that I haven't seen my family, so back at home. So
I'm on 2.
It just goes like that,
Yeah.
So if that's going to help me not have a quarantine in Australia, boom, I'm back home. So let's get back now. So where you're from? So you're from the US of A?
Yeah.
Of course.
Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one place that I've tried to go twice now, and both been stopped. I was going to go to LA, then go to Chicago.
Right.
It'll
be there.
But I keep telling you, I get told about this place, about how amazing it is, and like not just this city, but the music and the atmosphere and the vibe. Just a lot of things that come out of Chicago. Like I've heard nothing but good things. Born in Chicago, so tell us about growing up in that. What are your memories of growing up in Chicago?
Well, I grew up on the southwest side of the city, and actually I'm wearing a T-shirt today that I was really could not believe that they made this T-shirt.
Right.
Because, they say Chicago is the city of neighborhoods. There's Wicker Park, and there's Wrigleyville, and there's Canaryville, and Back of the Yards, and all these different, famous neighborhoods, River North. And I grew up in literally a 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer square neighborhood called West Elsden. There's no Elsden. There's no East Elsden. There's no. It's just West Elsden, and I don't even know who this Elsden person is. So last time or 2 times ago, I was back there and going through a local grocery store, and I saw a West Elsden T-shirt. I'm like, I gotta have it. I can't not own this shirt. So I grew up. It's the Southwest Side, and I always like to call the Southwest Side a small town in the big city.
And Illinois is the capital, right?
Springfield's the capital. Illinois is the state.
Oh.
And Springfield, like The Simpsons, right?
Right. Is that Springfield?
No, I don't think they ever really said where.
Right.
They
didn't.
I think they just tried to come up with a name of a city that was like every town USA.
Yes.
So we'll call it Springfield. And they. It's a small town. The neighborhood I grew up in was built post World War II, so all the housing and area was 1947. So if you look at a map of the north side of the city of Chicago, everything north of Madison Street, there's a lot of angled streets, and everything north of Madison, which is like the zero line of the city, dividing north and south, are named. So you say, okay, you can meet me on the corner of Broadway and Diversey, meet me on the corner of North and Halstead,
And you do that today as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the south side, they decided to number. So it's going progressively numerical going further south that you go, and then going west, it's lettered. And actually, they tried to keep it even more uniform. There are sections of the city where all the streets start with the letter K, and then the next ones, they start with like another letter, and then
right.
So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to be on the corner of 41st and Kenmore, or 57th and Kildare.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yes.
Well, I grew up in that sort of area, and also the south and southwest sides of the city are blue collar. It's a blue collar area of the city. And, the famous Union Stockyards I grew up not too far from. They were long gone by the time I was born, but that still kind of kept the attitude of the hardworking blue-collar South Side. And both of my brothers, if I can, went into blue-collar work. Both of them were plumbers. And did actually go to work with one of my brothers one time, or a couple of times. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. So I was the first one of my family to go to university.
Right. So before that...
Yeah. Sorry, I don't want to get too far away from that.
That's all right. Tell us about your mum and dad. Were they musicians? What was that work?
Well, my father passed away when I was 9 months old. My mom wasn't exactly musically inclined, but she was a great music fan. I found out recently that my father had taken her for her birthday to see Harry Belafonte in in the 50s. When he was a star, fifth row center, and so after my father had passed, my mom wanted to have noise in the house always. So she'd always have either during sports seasons would have Chicago Bears games playing, or baseball games. My beloved White Sox on the TV or the radio, and then when that wasn't happening, there was music playing. Well, I also had my brothers are 10 years older. One's 10 years older, and one's 8 years older than I am, and they so. When I was born in the 65. So, they were already listening to artists from the late 60s, early 70s when I was 5 years old. So my oldest brother, when I was 5, would have been 15.
Right.
He loved Jimi Hendrix. He had Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and I had these albums around the house. But with my grubby little 5-year-old hands, you can't touch our albums, So here, you can have these old things. So they threw Beatles 65, the Help album, and I think I had a copy of Ram. No, I didn't get that till later. I had those two albums and a handful of Beatles 45s. Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Hello Goodbye, I Am the Walrus, Revolution, Hey Jude.
You still have those?
I still have those.
Wow.
But it was, I look at it as like my musical education for that was kind of like kids today who watch, the Baby Shark video over and over again, or watch Frozen and over and over, hey mom, play Frozen again, play Frozen.
Go.
Right, so here I am playing Hello Goodbye, flip it over, I Am the Walrus, flip it over, play Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields, flip it over, play Penny Lane, over and over and over and over again. And I think that gave me a really good idea of melody and harmony. And,
definitely.
And of course, singing along to them, because they're very catchy songs. Then I remember when I was 10 years old, and I went shopping with my mom, and she said, oh, you know what? you can buy an album. Okay, I'll look around. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club.
Beatles, yeah.
Boom. Because
I
heard it at a friend's house, and I was like, yeah, I want this. And so now education's continuing.
Yeah.
So, but my older brother played guitar, but wasn't successful. And so he passed it on to the next brother, and he wasn't successful with either. He played a little bass, too. But we had the guitar in the house. So I picked it up and tried to mess around with it and kind of, okay, yeah, I can do a little bit of this. But wasn't really figuring it out. So now I'm about 12 years old, and it's a little embarrassing story. Finally, my brothers had moved out, and so now I got access to their albums, and I absolutely adored Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Right.
And their live album, which had the full-length version of Carnival No. 9. And it was just mind-blowing to me. It's a half-hour-long song, and there's all these movements. So I'm in my bedroom, air guitaring to it. Full blast stereo. The lights flick on and off. It's my mom behind me. She goes, "What are you doing?" I'm like, playing the music. She goes, "You want to learn guitar? I'll take you to lessons."
Yeah. Oh.
I'm like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah." "Oh, yeah, let's go." So I started taking guitar lessons for a couple of years. But
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Couple of years, but like, did you? Because that's when when you're starting at an early age, you want to be playing you want to be playing those Beatles songs. Was it frustrating for you, Bob?
No, because my middle brother Steve, his friend had a band.
Wow.
And so he would come over and show me like riffs and chords and things like that. So I still remember some of the stuff he showed me. He showed me how to play Long Distance Runaround by Yes, which was like way over my skill set. But when you're a young kid, just like, okay, I'm playing this riff, and I still remember how to play that to this day.
Now with the White Sox.
Oh, okay.
I want to talk about that. So you were born into the White Sox.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, your
father, grandfather, South Side tradition.
Right.
Grew up close enough to the park that on some nights you could hear. Well, Comiskey Park, the old park, was famous for an exploding scoreboard.
Right.
It was they were one of the first teams in the majors to have fireworks when a home team hit a home run. So on certain nights, you could hear it. It was, genuinely loud. It was close enough to hear that. When I was probably about 10 or 11, I was actually allowed to go to afternoon games on the bus with my buddies. And a box ticket was $5.
Yeah, right.
Save up $5, get $5 from mom, go down to the park, have a hot dog, have some popcorn, watch a ball game.
So what were the early games that you went to that you can remember? Like, some of the players that you saw.
The 70s, so it was like the knuckleballer Wilbur Wood. It was Steve Stone, who's now their broadcaster. It was Bill Melton, the third baseman. But I also sort of got my idea of, I got my White Sox, but also there's the legends and the stars of the game. So I got to go see the teams that have the stars.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So, the Red Sox come to town. I see Carl Yastrzemski and Jim Rice and all those great 1970s Boston teams. I saw the 77 Yankees, with Reggie Jackson and Craig Nettles and Lou Piniella and all those guys. And in fact, I saw them walk the bases loaded to get to Reggie Jackson because he, was home run or strikeout for Reggie.
Yeah.
Grand slam, Reggie Jackson. So through the 70s, the White Sox were a pretty sad team, and through most of the 80s.
Right.
Well, everyone talks about the Chicago Cubs and their lovable losers and the futility of losing, and they won their last World Series in 1908 and then won their next one in 2016. Well, White Sox won in 1917, but didn't win again until 2005. That's
a long time between.
It was almost 200 years of non-championship baseball in Chicago combined. So damn. But they always talk Red Sox and Cubs. I was like, hey, you know, what
You know,
what about we're here too.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. When I started watching baseball, Australia,
Yeah.
it was the early 90s, so it was like I used to love watching the White Sox play. One of my favourite was a pitcher, because I was a pitcher as well when I was a teenager, and it was like Roger McDowell.
Oh yeah,
I used to love watching him pitch.
sure. That was the mid-90s team, like 93.
That was the mid-90s.
They went to the playoffs against the Blue Jays. And
and it was like Frank Thomas.
Right, oh yeah.
Ventura,
one of my favorites.
Yeah, Reigns.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good team.
Yeah.
Coming up against the Blue Jay team and the
Joe Carter and those late 80s, early 90s games against the Oakland A's. Tony La Russa was their manager, and they were just knockdown, drag out. One of my favorites was, the A's had the Bash brothers. It was Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire, and of course Dennis Eckersley, their closer.
What a team that was!
I remember a game at the old Comiskey Park in the 88 or 89, and the White Sox were winning coming into the end of the game, and Canseco comes up, and everybody's just screaming every four-letter word at him, and just the whole crowd's just uproar. Everybody's on their feet screaming at him, and all of a sudden he tattoos a baseball. I mean, crack, and the whole crowd went silent because you knew this one was going to go far, and it was a very rare feat for someone to hit it on the roof of Old Comiskey Park. And this ball was carrying and going and going and going. And we're watching, and it hooked, and it went foul. But when it was climbing and going out, the crowd went dead silent. As soon as it hooked foul, everybody's screaming at him again. It was amazing. So much fun.
Yeah, I'm sure you've been yelling abuse at quite a few players over the year.
Another one I got, funny you should mention it, just popped into my head. Cecil Fielder.
Tigers.
Detroit Tigers, yeah. I ended up getting seats right behind home plate, first row, upper deck.
Oh, nice.
Great seats. And in the old days, it was only maybe about, I don't know, maybe 30, 40 feet above the plate. And so you could just kind of lean over and look at him and yell at him.
Right.
So me and my buddies had a couple of beers, and every time he comes up, we're yelling at the top of our lungs, "Hey, Cecil!" Because he goes by Cecil Fielder. Cecil! Hey, Cecil! He swings and he misses. He turns and he looks right up at us. And we all just kind of jump back and say, "Oh, he heard us."
Wow. So, there you go. You get an assist for each
shot. Yeah, right? Absolutely. You kicked another memory into my head. I used to work in a bar that was owned by two Chicago Bears. And we'll get down the line, but since we're sticking to baseball stories, this is a baseball story. And one night, this is in 1988, Kent Herbeck, who was the first baseman for the Minnesota Twins. Twins are in town. He comes in. I was doing audio and sound engineering at this bar. It was a live music club. I said, you know what? I got a bunch of drink tickets. That guy drinks for free the whole time he's here. Ken Herbeck. Just next day he goes 0 for 4. Nice. I got Ken Herbeck drunk and I got him hungover and he went 0 for 4. I did my bit for the team.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I know that you're a White Sox fan.
Yeah.
I'm a Braves fan.
Right. Both are doing well.
Yeah, both doing well. So that's great for. And, hopefully it can happen. A White Sox Braves
sure can.
World Series. I can see it.
Anything's possible.
The Field of Dreams. I mean, that was just amazing.
It was incredible. Finally, baseball did something right. It looked great. The uniforms looked great. The outcome was great.
Yeah.
I think Tim Anderson, who's the second baseman for the White Sox, shortstop for the White Sox now. He been a great player, and everybody's known about him. But like the New York Mets are to the New York Yankees, or the Angels are to the Dodgers, the White Sox are to the Cubs, and so there are those teams that are the darlings, and there's kind of like the ugly sisters of the So everybody in the country should know Tim Anderson. He's an amazing player, great heart, great smile, strapping, handsome young man. And he finally did something on the national stage. And now everybody knows his name. And I'm so happy for that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Look out for the White Sox. Yeah. They're going pretty good. They're playing some pretty good ball.
Yeah.
You've only got one team for the Bulls. So
Bulls basketball,
Bulls as well.
Yeah. I'm a little ashamed of it. I'm a Michael Jordan fan. I was,
their streak in the 90s
was amazing, and you could not. They were again. It was Beatlemania. It was Bulls mania. You could not. People would specifically set up times. Hey, no, the Bulls are on. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. And then when as soon as the playoffs started, everybody hunkered down and ordered pizza and beer and sat and watched the playoff games. And we had our heroes and we had our set of villains. The New York Knicks, the Detroit Pistons, of course.
Yeah.
Hated that team. And it was an amazing run to watch those guys.
Oh yeah. And you even had one of our Australian guys.
Luke Longley. Yeah.
He was featured in the. He doesn't really get a lot of raps, like it's Jordan, Pippen.
Sure, but no, you couldn't have done it without him though.
Yeah, he was in those teams through all through that.
Right.
Very good defensive player. So
yeah, well, it takes 5 guys,
and he's apparently very quiet. It's impossible to get an interview with him.
Okay.
Like even with those ESPN Michael Jordan, he wasn't on there.
That's right, he wasn't. You're right.
Apparently, only recently he started coming out telling his stories of those 90s. And it's like, they're gold.
Yeah.
So I really look forward to hearing Luke Longley's...
So you did see that Field of Dreams, what is it?
Yeah, the 30 for 30 ESPN.
No, it was The Last Dance. The 10-part.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Oh, that was amazing, yeah.
And just knowing that, I remember that. I remember this. I remember that.
It was just great that they were doing a documentary at that time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It was great that they were filming everything.
And how they still hate the Pistons.
Yeah. There's some dirty tactics for the Pistons.
Yeah. Well, basketball, I mean, I'm not very familiar with it, but having watched it then and watch it now, it was murder then. I mean, guys, there were elbows and
trying to stop Jordan.
Right. And like one, that was also Shaquille O'Neal was big in the game in the 90s, and one of the things was he can't hit free throws, so just hit him. Foul him, push him, put him up at the line because he can't hit free throws.
That was the game plan. Yeah. But he was big and strong enough to still...
Well, yeah. Well, I was watching that Sunday afternoon game when he broke his first backboard.
Right.
Nobody can believe it.
What a great player. I got to meet him.
Oh, really?
One of the times in the US.
Oh, cool.
Doing like a book signing for his autobiography. Mm-hmm. And I got to say hello and just said I'm a huge fan. And he said, "Thank you, brother." And he signed the book, and it's like, got to be in the right place at the right time,
sure.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the Bears. I found out about the Bears. I've only recently, like, baseball's been my sport, my major league sport, but in the last couple of years I've got into the fantasy, so I've started watching the basketball, and my dad's a big gridiron fan.
Sure.
So, but Saturday Night Live, they used to have this skit, and the Bear.
Yeah.
And then they changed their hat. The Bulls.
Yeah. Well, it's those guys. Famously, Saturday Night Live pulls people from Second City. Second City is an improv comedy troupe started in Chicago in the late 60s or late 50s, I think. Has a million-mile long list of people who were cast members there, from like Joan Rivers to John Belushi to Stephen Carell. Yeah, I mean, it's like years and years and years.
Yeah, right.
Colbert might have been there as well, I think. But anyway,
so in that group, it was Mike Myers.
Right. I think Mike Myers came from the one in Canada, from the Second City in Canada.
Oh, he came in Canada,
right. And that's where Dan Aykroyd came from as well. And so that a lot of the writers and people who the pedigree is from Saturday Night Live is from Chicago's improv.
Right.
The Chicago accent.
Yeah.
A true Chicago accent is you implode your THs. So instead of saying this, that, those, them, dis, dat, those, them.
Right.
or even for some odd reason we say, some people say the number 3 is tree. So, hey, use tree guys over there. You got to go over and see this. Hey, did you see that over there? Yeah, I saw that. Did you see that? Yeah. So that was where not the bears come from.
Right.
And then the only thing I could figure was where the Chicago accent comes from is we had a heavy influx of Irish immigrants to Chicago. I mean, I'm sure there's as many Irish pubs in Chicago as there are in like Dublin.
Right.
Gunther Murphy's and Riley's Daughter and all these, Irish named pubs. And I think with the Irish accent, they sort of implode their THs too, don't they? This is a good thing you got.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of how it evolved into the Chicago accent. Right. But I've been here long enough where my Chicago accent is flattened out, where I quite often get accused of being Canadian.
Well, that was one of the few things that stand out with Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. I just thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
I think that Michael Jordan will win. Right. Chicago will win by 100 points, and Jordan will score 75 of them.
Right. It was always also Ditka.
Yeah.
Hey, who would win between a hurricane and Ditka? Oh, yeah, Ditka.
Ditka.
What if the hurricane was named Ditka? Ooh, I don't know. And then one of them, Farley, who was from Chicago,
Chris Farley,
would always have a grabber, have a heart attack, and have to beat his chest to get his heart going again.
That's my 7-part bit today.
Right.
Baker's dozen or something
sure.
like that.
Yeah.
So funny. It said that you started learning guitar at 13, but you also started before that, so you properly...
Well, listening to songs and then singing along with songs, and then also, kind of getting together with friends and singing along with friends to the Beatles records and whatnot, and then playing guitar. And my proficiency at guitar is decent. I'm a pretty good strummer. I can play leads a little bit now, but I had found out that I was a better singer than guitar player.
Right.
So there were some guys in my neighborhood that were looking for a singer. And so, my friends were like, hey, go talk to these guys. Talk to these guys. Mm-hmm. And they weren't too far away from where I lived. So I went and auditioned. And they hired me. I think there was a little bit of a question about my voice, because my friends had said that, well, he's loud. He can sing loud. But I think there was a little problem with pitch. And then,
so were you trained in vocals?
No, it wasn't really. I was just singing the records, and and there's really the only other person in my family is my niece Katie, who has actually vocal talent and can sing. Everybody else never even bothered. My mom, nobody else can do it. So I about 15 years old, started singing with these guys and really neglected my guitar skills. I learned my major, minor, and seventh chords.
Yes.
That's all I need to know, and didn't progress any further with it. And just focused on singing. And then after a while, I said, okay, well, maybe I should take some vocal lessons. I had a vocal teacher for a little bit, and she taught me a little bit about breathing. And then,
so was she classically trained, or was she?
No, I don't know. I think she was just a vocal coach.
Okay.
She taught me all the we'd go over scales and teach me a little bit about breathing. And
so, do you have a warm up even now? Do you warm up, or you just
I don't
drink a beer and
and I don't really have a chance to warm up now. So it's kind of funny when I do sets in Shanghai, I open up with the song "Yellow" by Coldplay.
Okay.
Because it's not really high pitched, and as it progresses, you can start singing a little higher.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So do that. That gets me warmed up, and then the second song I do it's usually back to back. That and "Cupid" by Sam Cooke. So because then by the end of "Cupid," I can start really wailing, and it's okay. Can I do this note today? Can I do this note? Yeah. Okay. Fine. Then that's the rest of my set.
That's interesting.
But no, when I do some of the shows at Pearl. I'll like for the AcDc show, since I'm not on stage the whole time, I'll come out and do 3 songs and then go sit down for a half hour. I'll grab an acoustic guitar back there and just keep singing to keep myself warm.
We'll talk a little bit about that later, because I'll tell you what,
put a pin in that.
AcDc is one of my favourite bands, and I still am amazed how good you sing Bon Scott. You know, something that you can take very lightly, because he's got a very unique style of singing. So to get up there and just bang it out is very good. But let's talk about that.
We'll get that.
Yeah. So it says here that your first band was in '81. You were the lead singer.
Yeah, I was the lead singer with a group of neighborhood guys, and we had a really cool name called Gladiator.
Oh,
yeah, it was. We had 2 guitars, bass,
did you dress
drums.
Up?
No, it didn't. But we did thematically dress. No, sorry, that was another band. The band In Between Bands was one that we were thematic. But no, we just were still high school or early high school kids playing classic rock and pop. And
so what music were you playing at that stage in that first band?
Journey, Styx, Kansas.
So it was popular on
at the time, the arena rock bands, REO Speedwagon,
right?
Midwest, strong. Still kind of on a good day, if you catch me warmed up, I can do a pretty good Steve Perry.
Oh,
yeah, still.
Come on.
But back in my younger days, I could, hey, drop of a hat, boom.
Right.
Hey, let's sing "Don't Stop Believing." Okay, boom, go. And it'd be no problem without warming up.
Nice.
So it was with those guys through most till like 1983.
So that got the ball rolling.
It got the ball rolling, yeah.
And again, like you do with Shanghai, you meet, you connecting,
sure, you network,
meeting other musicians, and networking.
Well, then there was the generation above. So like one of my brother's friends played guitar, and I knew him, and he knew another band that was touring the States, but still doing cover songs, but touring bars in the States. And they asked me to audition. I'm like, yeah, 18 years old. Hey, why not? Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
Check it out. Then they liked me. So I was told, okay, you got to learn these 40 songs, and we're going to rehearse for 7 days, and then we're going to go to Ponca City, Oklahoma.
Wow.
Like, oh, okay. And never, 18 years old, never been in a bar in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
That'll be cool. So we rehearsed, we did it, and got a chance to play around the States.
Wow,
played
really cool.
Iowa, Kansas. So this was all through the summer of 1983. Oh, one of the rehearsal days was the day of my high school graduation.
Yeah.
Didn't care.
Yeah.
I'm playing music. I'm planning for my future. I don't need to go and do this. I got the piece of paper. Not important. This is important. I hung out with that band. Now that band, I told you, they were called Hero, and they had a thematic theme.
David Bowie sort of?
No, we didn't do any Bowie. We were just doing classic rock covers and a couple of hits of the times. But the color scheme, red, black, and white.
Right.
Everything that you wear has to be red, black, and white.
Right.
So, or a combination thereof. And played with them then throughout the summer, a couple of county fairs and.
So, any standout stories on these first tours?
Yeah, I mean, we going to Pensacola, Florida was a lot of fun. It was the first time I was ever in Florida. It was
now it's early '80s, so like the whole cliche is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So was this happening? Or
of course. maybe not so much on the drugs end, but there's other two. Yeah, partake, sure. I mean, an 18-year-old kid away from home for the first time, sure. Yeah.
And girls coming to the shows.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Met nice people around, and one of the nice days was we were going to play at a water park in Wichita, Kansas, and we got in a day early, and we already had our passes, and there was a double bill of some English touring bands that national or international touring bands that were going to be playing on the stage that we were going to be on for the weekday. This was the weekend, and It was the Fix and Flock of Seagulls.
Right.
And I was like, oh, hey, he's excellent,
Yeah.
And they were both great. They were, everybody saw Flock of Seagulls with crazy hair. Great band. They were an amazing band to see. So that was one of the standouts. Played through the summer with these guys, and then towards the end of the summer, their lead singer that I'd replaced had evidently was making some inroads with making a record deal for himself. But he needed a band.
Right.
So, hey, I know a band he used to be with, so he called on them, and they said, they said it was strictly business. It wasn't personal, not my ability. They told me all these things. So they said, sorry, we're going to go with this guy and try and, be a successful band. I can say one of the things that I do regret was the manager of that band had offered me. He's like, Mark, we really like you. We can find you another band. And me being a headstrong, bullheaded 18-year-old, 19-year-old, I was like, screw you. I'm going to go. I don't need you guys. I'll find my own band. But found a band. But turns out that this guy who was the manager of that band ended up being the manager of Dave Matthews Band. I was like, man, maybe I should have listened to him. Oh well. So went back to Chicago, hat in hand, asked the original band that I was in from 1981. I say, guys, can we get this going again? And they're like, yeah, that's fine. So we started playing together again and gigging in bars and playing high school dances and doing all that stuff back in Chicago again. And I went to university too.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. So what was your major in university?
I went to a place called Columbia College, and not associated with Columbia University in New York, but it's primarily a performing arts and broadcasting school. I went to Columbia for sound engineering and broadcasting.
Wow.
I wanted to be on the radio.
Yeah, right. And so with the broadcasting and the radio, did that mix in with the bands moving forward?
Well, not exactly. I mean, the engineering stuff did a little bit, but not too much with the radio.
And did you do more touring and that? Did
No.
you have more university college?
I mean, we played a little bit in Northern Illinois, some high schools and things like that, high school dances, proms, but not too much actual touring then after that.
Now, what was Chicago like in the 80s? Is it like you think of LA and New York, and it was a very interesting vibe.
I think one of the things, I think we were more influenced by what we were hearing than what was going on. So we were hearing the bands from the 80s, and one of our favorites of the group that we had with the five of us was we loved In Excess.
Yeah, right.
So it's just wow. It's like it rocks, but it's also danceable. Okay, so we really tried to write originals that were kind of heavy, had a great guitar solo, but also had a groove to it. And we did maybe about 15, 20 original songs that were kind of based like that, but that wasn't where music was going.
Yeah.
It was where music was and was at the time.
Because I didn't think In Excess. I mean, I knew that they had an international success, but I didn't realize how popular they were in the US.
Oh, they were huge. Yeah, I think I saw them 4 or 5 times live, and they were selling out 15,000 seat rooms in Chicago. So yeah.
But my boys at AcDc, they were doing it.
Right, they were doing it 10 years before.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm actually really happy about is, and I wish I could have seen this, is they were good friends with, you inherit bands from older siblings. You say, oh, this is Jimi Hendrix and Beatles and all, you inherit those, but they're not your discovery.
Yeah.
So, I love the Beatles, but my band was Cheap Trick.
Right.
And so,
great band.
Right. So that's my discovery. It's oh, this is my band. My brothers don't like this and don't know these guys. These are my band. And AcDc and Cheap Trick were great friends. There's tons of photographs of them on the internet, and
touring with them in New York.
Toured with them,
Yeah.
and there's a great picture of Bon Scott, Robin Zander, and Bunny Carlos playing pool and drinking beer, and it's like, God, I'd love to be there.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, when Bon Scott passed, Cheap Trick was doing a cover of Highway to Hell, and whenever I play Highway to Hell with like the Red Stars or whatever, that there's Xander, the singer for Cheap Trick, did a little scream at the beginning that Bond didn't do. But I was like, okay, I got to do my little Cheap Trick thing, so I'll do the Xander thing and then do Highway to Hell.
Right, there you go. Wow. So Cheap Trick and AcDc, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So into the 80s, and you're studying. You're studying really hard. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, I took it much more seriously than my high school education.
Right.
I was working through university, so it wasn't a full-time thing. So 4 hours of school, maybe in the morning, go to my job, or go to my job and then go to school at night. And it took me 5 years to get through it, not 4, but I made it, and I for sure went to that graduation because I worked for that one.
Yeah, you worked really hard.
Yeah.
But it says here in '89 that you left the band as well.
I had finished university, and then I got this job at the bar, and I told you it was owned by a couple of Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
And we could talk a little bit more about that. And then, since I was working at this bar and then working with a couple of other bars in the North Side area, I was getting inroads in networking, and so I was trying to pull the other band into these bars. And so I got a chance to play. The bar was called Traffic Jam.
Right.
In 1988, they were the number one seller of bottled Budweiser in Chicago. There was no other bar. They had would get just packed wall to wall to watch bands,
right.
And in each corner of the room they had fairly attractive young ladies selling Budweiser bottles in a horse trough. Put the beers in the trough, spill ice across the top of it. She's got the cash. She's just popping bottles. Let's go. No wait, no lines, no wait. Just let's keep the beer moving. And so in playing in these bars, you can say there was a little bit of musical differences, but also there was a bar in the north side of Chicago called the Kangaroo Bar, and we would get a regular gig there. We'd go and play. It would pack up wall to wall, and so the stage was small. It was too small for a 5-piece band. We had keyboards, guitar, bass, drums fit on this thing. So I got no place to be. So this was the early days of handheld wireless mics.
Right.
Okay, I'll get the wireless mic and I'll run around the room. Wherever there's space, I'll sing, and because it's small enough where I don't need monitors, I can hear the PA, and as if I won't get any feedback, that's what I'll do. Well, seeing as I'm running around the room and amongst the patrons, hey man, come here. Here's a shot. Okay, boom, and then mid song, do a shot, do another shot, drink some beer, get hammered by the end of the show. And I guess the guys in the band didn't really like that. So I was not left, but I wanted to kind of push this more rock and roll, and they kind of wanted to go more dance too.
Oh.
And it's just partially my drinking too much, and partially also direction of where they wanted to go.
Going the whole the Kiss route.
Yeah, maybe, or Peter Gabriel Genesis or whatever, just I want to do this, they want to do this. Okay, that's fine, but
Maybe the hard rock.
Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting, but again, more experience. Now you got some experience under your belt,
Mm-hmm.
and then it says that 2 years later you started a band called J for Jules.
Yeah.
And now it's original music, not your cover sets. So.
Right. Well, because in hindsight, looking at this now is like thinking, I want to write what's kind of happening or what the future can be, and I don't want to be again stuck in writing songs that are dance songs. If I want to write something that's all minor chords, I'm going to write that. And it was, you know, a little bit of the grunge era was going on. But I didn't really take to grunge all that much because to me it kind of sounded like heavy metal with a baritone singer.
Yeah, and some really just simple chords.
Right, yeah. So, but I was, you know, we'd write songs that were a little more emotional, a little more moody, and worked with, you know, again, a bunch of great guys that I still talk to. In fact, I still do talk to those other guys too. And
so you were getting back to the bar that you worked at.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about the Traffic Jam bar. It was a really, really popular place, and I wanted to get my band in there. You know, it's like, okay, you want to play in the popular room? Sure. Yeah. I went in, and I was talking to the guy who was the sound engineer and you know, quote-unquote DJ, quote-unquote, because it was a rock bar, so they weren't, you know, it wasn't mixing. It was like, okay, I'm going to play this song, it's going to be upbeat and happy, but then we're just going to, like a radio station, just crossfade into another song. We're not going to match beats or anything like that. So that was, you know, the extent of my DJing career there. I was talking to him, and he looked, this guy Bill Abraham looked a little stressed. And I said, "What's up?" He goes, "Well, my assistant just quit. I was working delivering court transcripts for a court reporting firm." And I was like, "Well, you know, I could work here." You know? I was like, you know, and so I talked to him a little bit and told him my background. I said, I got a musical background. I got a little bit of Columbia College engineering background. I'm comfortable around bands and microphones. And, you know, he says, "Yeah, you're hired." So I got the gig and then also got the band in too. Right. So, it was, you know, 2 birds, 1 stone.
There you go.
And a little bit of a great education on celebrity because I got a chance to meet Kevin Butler and Dan Hampton, who were the owners of the Bears. I got a chance to meet Mike Ditka. Well, he autographed a Bears book that I had, almost to the point of, "Hey, can you sign this?" And as he was talking to somebody, not really looking, and just kind of signed and handed back to me. But also, I got involved with. They did like a local cable local cable sports interview shows there. So I got a chance to meet Greg Maddux, baseball pitcher, you know, famous Cub, but then more famous Atlanta Braves. Really nice guy. University basketball coach from DePaul University named Ray Meyer, famous basketball coach in Chicago. And since I really didn't have anything to do production-wise for this show, you know, they had their own people, but we supplied the stage and the lighting and got to make sure that the stage was clean. They said, "Hey, just make sure that the guest of the show is taken care of." So I see this guy, he's got to be in his late 70s, early 80s. He's at the bar ordering drinks. And I said, you know, go up to him and say, "You know, Coach Meyer, my name's Mark. I'm here to help you out and get you drinks. You know, whatever you need, let me know." And I see him walking away with 2 gin and tonics. And I said, you know, "Well, Coach Meyer, you know, why, you know, I'll get you a drink. You don't need to get 2. And he smiled and he goes, "Does a pilot fly with 1 wing?" And he turned and he walked away from me. I'm like, fair enough, you know. So then now I do his cocktail, so whenever he was down, I make sure he got one.
I got 2, actually.
Well, yeah. So I got a chance to meet him. I got the 1985 Bears, the Super Bowl champion Bears, had a really great offensive line. Since the place was owned by the Bears, home games, we opened up at, you know, 11:30 in the morning before the game. The liquor license were still as such where we couldn't open up too early.
All right.
But we can open up early enough to get people in to watch the game. And people would come because they knew after the game some of the players would come and hang out. Mm-hmm. Well, after the road games, though, there really wasn't that much of a crowd. But the players would still come in. That was kind of like a secret. They'd still come in and drink for free and hang out. And so we'd gone through showing the game. And so I'm there spinning records. And there's really nobody in the room, except I know some of the Bear players are in the back there. So I'm grabbing whatever. I'm like, grab this. And playing old crazy rock songs that I like because I want to hear them loud on the sound system. Like, the first Devo album. Oh. I've never heard the song Mongoloid by Devo cranked on a sound system. Boom, I throw it on. One of the Bears players comes running over to me. You know, this guy's giant. He goes, "Oh man, thank you so much. I haven't heard that song since I was in university." And I was like, turn it up a little bit then for you. There you go. So,
Wow.
yeah. That was Keith Horn. Keith Van Horn was, I think, the guy. I'm pretty sure it was him.
Right.
So, yeah. So got to meet those sports players. We did a couple of private events. So I got to meet some of. We did a press meeting, I guess, for WWF, for WWE wrestling at the time in the late 80s.
Wow.
So the $1 Million Man and Hacksaw Jim Dugan and a couple other guys were in there. Got a chance to meet them, and I got autographed photos for my nephew, who was 10 or something at the time.
I used to watch it as a kid. I can remember, even in like primary school, I would watch Andre. Actually, we just worked it out. We're trying to start a wrestling podcast, me and my friend.
Oh, cool.
Like a side thing. My dad took me when I was. We worked it out. I was 6 years old when the WWF come to Australia for the first time, and it was Andre the Giant.
Oh yeah.
That's all I can remember.
Okay.
5 years old.
Sure,
Come
sure.
on.
Well, that's
so
pretty memorable.
Seeing Andre the Giant just come out and just like,
oh yeah, massive human being.
he's like 3 people, Daddy. Just an amazing. And ever since that time, Dad would record it.
Yeah.
It was early in the morning in Australia, so
Okay.
yeah, it'd be all the WrestleManias and. So yeah, I went to WrestleMania a couple of years ago, and Duggan and in the 80s. That was in their peak with Hulk Hogan and
sure.
Randy Savage and
those two weren't there, but these I guess were the B level
guys.
guys.
That was still
A level.
Oh
yeah,
Ted DiBiase. Actually, I think Ted DiBiase's still in it.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
he's still got something to do with it. Yeah. And now he's with his son.
Sure.
No, they're still there. They were very big.
So yeah, so that was fun. And the cool thing that I liked about seeing Jim Duggan and talking to him was, cameras are on. He's talking to people. He's the character. He's the chunk of wood over his shoulder. And as soon as hey, okay, we're done for today. Hey man, how you doing? It's really nice to meet you. He's really, really genuinely sweet guy to talk to.
Yeah.
So that was another really great memory from working there. Another one was we started to get some national touring bands come through.
Right.
And again, since they brought in their own crews, I didn't have much to do except they said, well, you can run Spotlight. Okay, well, what's the Spotlight job? I've never done it before. Well, the main guy, put the Spotlight up at him. It doesn't leave him. When the song's over, just close the lens. Just follow the meter, follow the beat, and then when the song's done, shut it, and then slowly open it up for the next song.
Right.
So I got to do Spotlight for John Hyatt, if you know him, and it was a great show. It was a band that Jason Bonham was in.
Oh.
So I got a chance to meet him, and it was running Spot, but I can't remember the name of the band. He was drumming in the band. What was the other one? Oh, Meatloaf. I got a chance to do Spotlight for Meatloaf and met him.
Wow.
He was, again, a really, really genuinely nice guy. Really sweaty, but really nice guy. So,
he was a big boy, but
yeah.
Man, he had some good songs as well.
Yeah, that was fun. Fun to hang around and gave me a nice education about being around that level of bands and entertainment. And of course, then a lot of really great local bands, Dick Holliday and the Bamboo Gang and Mr. Myers and all this.
So how long did you do this for?
I did that for 2.5 years, but then with bars and food and beverage, you can kind of, for a lot of places, you can see sort of the writing on the wall, and the crowd started getting a little thinner, and there were newer bars that opened up and were pulling the crowd away.
Right.
And there was a little bit of shenanigans with one of the owners that, we were robbed. And, well, we found out that the alarm system was shut off and the safe was left open. And we were robbed.
How convenient.
Yeah. So, and then eventually, for some reason, the owner's name popped in my head, so I did a look up on him and found out that, he was indicted on federal charges of something or another. And it just sort of happened, But the owners that were, like I said, Kevin Butler, who was the place kicker, for the Bears, and then Dan Hampton was a strong defensive player. And they owned, I think, a half percentage point each, and the rest of the guys who were investors were from the Chicago Board of Trade.
Right.
Yeah.
And sorry to turn it into a bad thing, but did any of those guys have any of the concussion,
No, but for sure you could see when Mike Ditka was there, he had to walk 3 steps to get on the stage, and he was lifting each leg to get up the steps. And this was, 30 years ago or whatever almost. Wow. Yeah, so got a chance to talk to Dan Hampton and, say, what's it like? What's it like in combat? What's it like in... He said...
Bashing your head into the...
Yeah, he said, well, every football play is like being in a car crash.
Yeah.
So this is all the only way to explain it. It's like being in a car accident. Everything's chaos and it's getting smashed and flying around. And then you finding out recently when they're talking about the concussions and head injuries that, every time they go helmet to helmet, it's like a 5 to 10 mile an hour car hitting a wall. And the helmet stays solid, but the brain still moves.
Yeah.
So
that was such an amazing movie. That concussion movie.
Yeah. Are you a rugby fan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just watched my team get beat and they get knocked out of the semi-finals. Rugby league.
Right.
Australian rugby league.
Right.
So, but it's the same. Like they're even harder. They don't even have helmets.
Right. Well, is there a lot of because we're always told that the NFL players wear helmets and gear and they have higher level of concussions and concussion related injuries, but the rugby players don't because they don't wear helmets.
They're still hiding. It's still undercover.
Yeah.
They've got this program called the Men of League.
Okay.
Where they sort of once they finish league, they sort of these old professional players will sort of look after them. If they need some help financially or like with medical bills.
It's like a pension for the older
players.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't been cracked open.
Okay.
So with the US and with all the people committing suicide, so it blew the door wide open as yet in the media, but they've got very, very strict rules with hitting of the head, any contact with the head, tackling.